Welcome back to Lessons for Life. It's Friday night. That means it's the Friday night free-for-all where anything goes, freedom of speech. It's an important anniversary, and it's also the day that a Metropolitan police officer was killed in a police station. So I'll welcome top right, we've got Mac. Bottom right, it's Mr. X. And bottom left, last but not least, it's the Turk. Anyone else is welcome to join in if they click the link in the description. And let's kick it off. There's room for two more with the rule of six. But Mac, what are you going to kick it off with?
I'd like to, first of all, mention, because of the morning of Imam Hussein, we've been mentioning that a lot. I'd like to emphasize today is the demise of the first son of Imam Ali, which is Hassan.
Okay. So this follows Muharram.
Yeah. So in Safwa.
Who is he to you?
To me, my mum, because she's a Sayyid, she's Bani Hashim, she's a great-great-granddaughter of Fatima Zahra, makes her basically her great-grandfather.
Okay.
Descendant. Okay. Turk, any news stories that you want to throw in the mix?
Yeah, the Metropolitan Police officer got killed today. Brenda Taylor's accusers, he got no jail time. Lakers are going to the finals. That's about it.
That's it. That's the news from stateside. Mr. X, what's your story?
I want to touch on the incompetent police officers that end up resulting in a case sergeant getting shot inside a custody suite, and I want to touch on the what's going on with Prince Andrew and Glenn Maxwell and stuff. And
all right, well let's start in London.
Julian Assange. Julian Assange is going through his hearings just now, and so Julian Assange is mentioned.
Absolutely. Well, let's shed a bit of light in what happened in Croydon. Someone being arrested managed to avoid having their gun found, and then they killed an officer.
Yeah.
Mr. X, what more do you know about that?
Well, I live pretty close to the area. I actually live in Croydon, so the boy was arrested supposedly for Class B drugs and ammunition. So, like, he was arrested and took to a police station in Windmill Road. It's called Queen's Custody Centre. It's fairly
the
new.
race of the suspect?
That's not been released. They've not actually released anything except for his age. He's a 23-year-old man, and he's in hospital in a critical condition because he was supposed to have turned his gun on himself after shooting Mr. Rapina, who was that's the name of the death sergeant. Mr. Rapina was the man that was shot. He was 54-year-old. So no, there's not really much details being released about the suspect. All I know is he's a 23-year-old male, and it happened at 2:15 a.m. in the morning. And
we can all guess, if we all have common sense, we could all guess the race of this individual, but I'm not going to say what it is.
Obviously, we know putting that
right, what does that mean? If we've got common sense, we can guess the race of the individual. There's Loyal John.
Presumably based on the context.
It's a bit biased. It's a bit biased. Like that's a bit judgmentally. Like you said, it's a 23-year-old man. He could be white, Chinese, whatever. All we know he's a male. Putting ethnicity aside, it doesn't matter what race he is. Like so, like. You can't predict that.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter what race he was. I want to welcome Loyal John. Welcome back, Loyal John. So loyal, it's the first time he's been on here for 6 years, but here he is. John, we're talking about stories in the news. A police officer was killed today. We don't know exactly the circumstances. Also, there's Mr. What's your name, sir? In the middle, bottom, middle?
Are you happy anonymous, to be, is he?
No. You, Joe. Are we allowed to say your name, Joe?
Oh, why not?
You've said that.
Please.
Okay, no
By all
problem.
means.
Because some people don't like it.
He's
Don't tell him,
anonymous.
Okay.
He has a message for us about the
Joe,
U.S. politics.
Why did you flippantly say you hate it when that happens regarding the death of an officer? Do you think that maybe? What did you mean by that?
Oh,
His own fault, man. What about Mark Duggan? What about when they shot Mark Duggan?
Vaguely. I'm sorry. I don't know who I was cutting off.
So you go for it. Joe is in. Joe is in on the death of an officer.
Oh, there was nothing terribly intentional meant by it. It was just meant to be kind of a sarcastic, flippant remark of, I guess, partly to allude to the fact that it seems to happen quite a lot, and it's a regular occurrence. And
no, that's never happened in British history.
Oh, was this a British police officer?
Yeah, this has never happened in British history. This is the first time anything like this has ever happened in British history.
Oh, and what was the context?
Pardon?
And what was the context of this occurrence?
The male was arrested and transported to a custody suite, and he was handcuffed to the rear supposedly, and
he was handcuffed to what supposedly?
He was supposedly handcuffed to the rear. And he was took to the custody suite, and they were going to do a COVID test on him. And it was at this point that he pulled his gun out and shot the desk sergeant. So, yeah, this isn't a regular occurrence. Yeah, there's
so they had handcuffed him, and they had not yet, patted him down for weapons.
Yeah. So he was arrested on suspicion of Class B drugs and ammunition. So they already knew he had bullets.
That seems insane.
Didn't spot the gun.
But they never found
They didn't pat him down or anything like that. Even if it was just for the drugs. I was nicked for drugs, and they strip searched me as soon as I got into the custody suite.
That's what I'm saying. I've been arrested numerous times, and listen, please believe me, like, no, I can't even get a fucking pen into the custody suite, never mind a gun.
Yeah, man.
Loyal John, you're a fan of Her Majesty's Police. What's your take on this story? I mean, sorry to throw you in, but just want to welcome you to the chat.
Well, thank you. Lovely to be here. Thank you. Hello, everybody else. I've not met you before. Yeah, I don't. So the story is. So I'm new to this. So I've been on leave, and I've not been kept up with the news. What's the story here? So a police officer was killed by somebody in Britain.
And a custody suite, a desk sergeant, a custody sergeant in the cells was shot in a secure environment there. Totally incompetent. How stupid are they?
Yeah, really.
It's crazy.
Okay, so
did he get away out of custody?
And I would say that if you
that's what I'm saying. So
when you were searched,
did he shoot?
Yeah, so for me, if I was arrested and I had a gun and I've just shot a desk sergeant, I'm turning the gun on the other officers, and I'm evading capture. So what they've said is this man shot this officer and turned the gun on himself and ended up in hospital. But they're making a point and iterating the fact that no Metropolitan Police bullets were discharged. So my theory is that the man shot the sergeant, and the police officers have obviously got into a fight. And I think the guns went off by accident, or the police have shot him. So I'm just hoping that they release the footage, and because the custody suite is well camered, so I want to see the footage of inside that custody suite to see what really happened. Because there's something all right. There's no way in this God's earth that you can get arrested and be searched and not get caught with a gun. I've been caught with joints and I've been caught with weed and stuff. It's crazy, man.
What are you saying you reckon actually happened?
I've been what's going on in London, especially in London as well, with all the stuff that's going on. They're on high alert. But I've been watching what's going on in London, and with this COVID stuff and implementing, I genuinely think they're trying to get the citizens of this country to explode and start fighting so they can justify themselves for bringing out the army and start wiping people out. I think it's part of the New World Order plan and depopulation.
So, but where was it that this happened? Which police station was it in?
This was in Croydon, South London.
Right.
I think that all the police should now all carry guns like in America.
Well, look what happened in America when they shot George Floyd.
Yeah.
Okay, pause it there, gentlemen, and mute your mics if you can for 2 minutes. I'm going to introduce another story. This comes from Russia Today. It might be of interest to Mac, but many other people might be interested as well. A senior officer in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps devised an ingenious plan to combat the American domination of cyberspace. He proposed the creation of a video game in which Iranian militia would rescue George Floyd from US law enforcement officers before he could be killed. Mac, what do you think about the Islamic Revolution making video games where an Iranian saves the day and saves George Floyd? This reminds me of some other versions of the Titanic story when it was someone else that sank the ship. Okay, well, I'm throwing it to Mac, and I want to hear other views as well. But Mac, go for it.
First of all, if you look, there's a Iranian naval. If you on YouTube type in Iranian naval saves, I think I can't remember someone from the Chinese from the African country or something. But apart from that, this game is obviously. I mean, we've got what's the game that you kill everyone like it's
There's a lot of games.
No,
a lot of games.
No, the other one, the military one. It looks military like.
a lot of
Call of Duty.
Tetris.
Yeah, Call of Duty is Call of Duty. So instead of so what Iranians have done, I've created a Call of Duty type of game, but they based it on and the idea is very smart because at the end of the day,
they're clever, those Iranians.
I mean, it's international. This has become an international event. This George Floyd.
It has.
And
cash in on it. Why not?
Exactly. So I mean, if you can initiate an idea or game, for example, well, even more so. I mean, the idea is I mean, it's a game. You can have different types of games. I mean, you have games that you fight the Nazis, like Wolfenstein 3D. I don't know if anyone's played it. Or you got Doom. You go face aliens. So it don't matter. I mean, it's just games. It's just.
I think.
The Turk is in. Go for it, Turk.
I think the Republic of Iran should make a video game where they save women from being beheaded and stoned to death for adultery and other.
Can I object there? Can I just object there? Wait. Can I make an objection, please?
Mac is back in. I'm going to have to referee this now. Mac is back in.
The stoning, it's true in Islam and Sharia law, but there is conditions to it. Even cutting off your hand, there's conditions to it. If you're poor, if you're doing it because you're poor or you don't have any money, they don't cut your hands off just like that, or they don't stone you. There's got to be 4 witnesses for you to commit that offense in order to be beheaded or.
No, that's not what.
And they got to be pious people. You can't just have random people.
I'm not justifying any action against women.
Okay,
like
pause it there. I'm going to ask Loyal John what he thinks of the Islamic Republic of Iran creating a game where the object is to save George Floyd. That's for the benefit of PK, who's just tuned in, wondering what the topic is. We're talking geopolitics, I suppose, and the politicization of George Floyd. Go on, Loyal John.
So what's important to note here is that that the Iranians have for a very long time upheld the rights of African Americans. So in the 1978 revolution, for example, when the American hostages were held for a few hundred days or whatever it was, the Iranian regime freed the African Americans because they said that they've been victims of oppression for many years. So
that's so fascinating.
There's always been solidarity between the Iranian regime and black people and not just black, but Native Americans and so on and so forth. So that
because of their Father Christmas character.
Sorry,
because of their Father Christmas character. I believe some Iranians black themselves up around New Year.
By the way,
sorry, I've interrupted Loyal John. Let Loyal John back.
Was it a joke?
White. Santa Claus is white.
So there is a history to this, and you may know that when George Floyd died, there were vigils around Iran for
Iran's
him.
Islamic Revolutionary Guards, yeah.
Yeah, and they have a lot of respect for black people of America because they feel that they have been oppressed for many years, and in the same way,
they have a common enemy.
There's a common enemy, and
Loyal
they feel
John.
the Americans are oppressing the rest of the world and their own as well. So that's the history behind it.
I have a question for Loyal John.
Wait, Joe, I want to bring Joe in. He said that Iran have a common enemy. Who is that enemy, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, this goes back throughout the history of the anti-imperialist movement around the world. Even if you look at black movements in the United States, the Black Panthers would always speak about uniting with Asia, Africa, and Latin America against the common colonial oppressor of the machine, the octopus of American imperialism, against the white man, which isn't really accurate because, look at Irish people. They're white as well. They're just as white as anyone else, but they're brutally oppressed by the same common enemy of imperialism. So the color bit is a bit misleading, but I mean, I wasn't aware of how attuned the Iranian state, I wouldn't use the word regime, but I wasn't aware of how attuned the Iranian state is to this whole movement of internationalism, anti-imperialist internationalism. But they have been, I mean, they're certainly one of the most anti-imperialist states that there are today. And I mean, that's always been the rhetoric of the international anti-imperialist movement, even from the domestic American black side.
Brilliant.
Loyal
I want
John,
to
I have a
ask.
question.
Loyal John's got a question from Turk. Go on, and then we're going to hear from Mr. X. Go on,
You're
Turk.
saying Iran has so many, they love black people so much. Would you recommend that black people go to Iran and join the Republic Army of Iran to battle against America?
By the way, they have South Africa right now. If you Google,
I'm talking about Americans.
YouTube,
I'm talking about black Americans. I'm talking about black Americans.
Well, I can answer that in a certain sense as well. The Black Panthers back in the 60s and 70s.
Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King. If you listen to Martin Luther King, he mentions Imam Hussein.
One at a time.
The oppression of Imam Hussein is mentioned even by Martin Luther King.
So my question is, how come black people from America don't move over and live in Iran to join the army and battle against America? Would you recommend
South Africa? Well, if I can answer that more directly.
Direct questions only. Direct answers only. I don't want no pussyfooting around.
There's no pussyfooting here. I mean, I don't know about any sound movements today, but it certainly happened in the past. The Black Panthers touring, posing with Chairman Mao in Tiananmen Square.
I'm talking about now. Would you recommend that they go do that now? I'm not asking about the past. I'm talking about now.
I would wholeheartedly advocate it, and it happened back in a brighter time of anti-imperialist activity that was less misguided. The Black Panthers went and toured Vietnam, North Korea, People's Korea, People's China, as well as African communist places like I believe Algeria, but I don't know as much about that region. But I reckon at the time, the Iranian anti-imperialist state did not yet exist, but they were going to all of the most equivalent contemporary places to, build solidarity between the different countries' movements.
Joe, do you believe it was genuine solidarity, or is it a case of my enemy's enemy is my friend and a propaganda opportunity?
Yes, Julian, I agree.
Well, I think it was.
100%.
I think that you just you made a false dichotomy there. It was very consciously, explicitly, unabashedly. It was a solidarity that was unabashedly based on the idea that, you know, we share a common enemy. That was a slogan. That was a phrase that was used openly by the people that were parties to this solidarity. I would describe it as a genuine solidarity. I would not describe it as a false or callous or empty solidarity. And I mean, to cast this term of propaganda, it kind of insinuates that somehow one of these groups is an establishment of some sort. But to be honest, I mean, back in the day, even though, like, you know, the Chinese Communist Party had won the Chinese Revolution and the Chinese Revolutionary Civil War, it doesn't mean that they were the establishment, because in the global scene, in the global context, they were a poor developing country that was struggling against a much bigger power of U.S. imperialism. Now, if you want to turn it around and apply that same question to the Black Panthers within the United States, they were not even a ruling party. I mean, it would be such a silly conversation to have around a very silly question of if they were an underdog or an establishment. The Black Panthers in America during that time, they didn't even...
For future Lessons for Life, a best channel on YouTube, can we get like a 2-minute timer so everybody gets a chance to respond?
Yeah, maybe. I didn't know we have it so
long. Holy crap!
You know what, gentlemen? Mr. X.
Yes.
You're going to be back in 2 minutes. I'm going to let somebody in and let you back in, okay? And we'll take it in turns. Give me a moment.
Okay.
Okay. We just might have a chance to speak to another contributor.
For next times, just not dominate the whole conversation here, guys. This is three platforms that talk over each other. It's all right. I'm just saying, we need 5-minute answers, not so much.
Yeah, and this is very much an experiment. Right, Mr. X, you're coming back in a minute. We're going to say hello, I think, to PK. Hello, PK, are you there?
Good evening.
Welcome. We've put Mr. X on the bench for you, so we're going to let you in for 5 minutes or so, because I know you like to say your piece and then let people get on with it.
Yeah. Oh, I've come to the conversation quite late, so I don't really know what's been said before. But geopolitics. If you want to ask a question, maybe that's the best way to go.
Okay. Well, just sum up your political outlook, and then that might spark a question from the panel.
Okay, I'll say something which. Okay, this sort of world we live in, where you have like Iran.
You've got a bit of feedback, PK. If you can mute the item you're listening on, and if we mute our mic, you're getting a bit of feedback. Okay, sorry.
Bear with me, I'm on headphones, so.
Which we are getting a lot of feedback.
I don't think I'm on loud. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, but we're getting an echo from whatever you're listening on.
Hang on a sec. I'll unplug the speaker.
Okay.
I got a question about this topic.
We're getting a lot of feedback, PK, but tell us who you are and then mute your mic.
Hang on a second. I'll go plug in, so that shouldn't affect the microphone. Is that correct?
This is like conference calls on Zoom in big companies. Nobody knows how to use it.
Teething problems.
Dodgy.
Isn't it, mate?
Yeah, we've gone a bit crazy.
Is that better?
Okay, we're hearing you much better now. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so like you were talking about Iran and Iraq, Iran and America, and the way I sort of see the world is there's a clandestine side of all governments that goes on that we're not privy to, the secret services. Is it really breaking up?
You're right. We got the gist of what you're saying. Mute your mic, and we'll go on the deep state.
I don't. How do I mute my mic? Hang on.
No, I don't know. PK,
it's a button.
You might be better in the comments.
Mic. It says mic.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a dodgy headphone lead or something.
Maybe it's the clandestine deep state group that just don't want you to criticise them. There you go. I mean, I've been talking about AI and the algorithm. Is your point, PK, that it doesn't matter who you vote for?
It's Iran
the government wins.
Cyber intervening Iran.
No.
Yeah.
The point I was trying to make is that all certain types of people play these games, these clandestine games, and they go into the services. Some of those services are secret, and when these games are played, it's beyond the normal rules that normal people have in societies. So when the secret services play these games that are beyond rules that we live by, bad things happen. You can't really, it's like you can't expect the world to be a wonderful, beautiful place all the time, because people aren't that. And those people that aren't that gravitate into these games.
Power-hungry people gain power.
Yeah.
All right. PK, we're going to touch on that. Yeah, okay, thank you. We'll touch on that.
On the text.
Contribute in the comments and react, okay? Thank you, PK.
Yeah, sorry about this sound.
No problem. It's a teething problem. No problem. Well done, mate. Okay. So that's PK. He's saying that the problem is, what it is that power-hungry people... Oh, hold on.
What's the Game of Thrones, isn't it?
Maybe it's someone else.
The footwear, really.
It turns into the Game of Thrones, doesn't it?
What do you mean by that, Mac?
That means Game of Thrones is about each empire trying to take over and become the winning empire, isn't it?
You haven't seen Game of Thrones, mate. You haven't seen Game of Thrones. What if it's better to have a king then? Because the king was born to be king. He hasn't tried to gain power. In the Middle East, most of the presidents are either the son of the last president or someone who killed the king. Maybe Loyal John would tell me something about that. What do you think, Loyal John? Agree, disagree?
You're looking at the wrong stuff. You're concentrating on the wrong stuff, man. You're all distracted.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so the Scottish chap. Sorry, I don't know your name. I'll let you. You've been quiet.
That's Mr. X.
Mr. X, hi. Yeah. I'll give way to Mr. X because he wanted to say something, and then I'll come back after that. If that's okay.
Yes, but I've got all the theories and stuff, and I think everybody's just distracted. Like people need to really start opening their eyes and see what's happening right in front of them, man. Like the world's a mess. It's not just happening in one place. The whole world is done, and there's people higher than us that are doing stuff, and like it goes deep. There's Masons and stuff, and Illuminati. All this stuff's real. People think for years we've been telling people about this, and people have laughed, and now it's all happening. And you've got COVID, and that's distracting people, and now they're putting lockdown measures in place, and like the citizens. It's a free country, man. We've got human rights. We're no prisoners. We can't be told to stay in our house. We've not committed any crime. So for me,
can we actually shift the discussion on that note to COVID?
Yeah. Okay. COVID in my eyes. We'll put it this way: they've named it COVID, and they've gotten a common SARS. Like, obviously, when the SARS pandemic happened, whenever it happened years ago, the scientists back in the days where they took samples and stuff, and they've messed about with it, and now you've got this come out, and this is definitely 100 million%. This is implemented. This isn't a mistake. This is orchestrated.
You think it's a bioweapon?
Yeah, 100%. This is World War III, isn't it? Like people are sitting back and watching it. It's already happening. World War III is not going to be America fighting Russia or Korea fighting Japan. It's the government's fighting the civilians now. Because
it's all cyber war now. It's either psychological warfare or it's a cyber warfare. It's not actual. That's how they do it. But it's like, I mean, for the Iran to be, I mean, Mossadegh and then to put the Shah and then to put Khomeini, that's psychological warfare. That without triggering any guns, you're achieving what you need to. So that, and now because we're in the time of technology, now they stepped up the game into, as well as psychological warfare, it's cyber warfare too now.
Yeah. Modern Warfare, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, they named that well. They named that game well. They can't go about the way they used to do, bring out their tanks and stuff like that, because they just can't do that. So now it's sneaky tactics and dirty tactics, and it's, in my eyes, it's the government are saying to the people,
it's false
my language here, but in my eyes, the government are saying to people, fuck, here's what you got to do about it. And
it's false flags they do, isn't it?
Pardon?
False flags. They like, for example, the Twin Towers was a false flag. They did that, and then they would obviously. So every time, even it goes back to time of Napoleon, even.
Look at the mind experiments in Germany.
In the chat, we've had Bill Fence mention the Great Reset, and he's also mentioning Yuri Bezmenov. You've spoken to me about Yuri Bezmenov, right, Mac?
Yep.
1 second.
He is a Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically,
he's a Russian. Go on.
He was a former KGB apparently, and he talks about this psychological warfare, and he even mentions Sun Tzu's the first law. He says if you can win the fight without triggering a bullet, that you've achieved a lot more than actually going into war and having to sacrifice people's lives. So basically, if you can do psychological warfare, the guy explains it really well, and he explains how it breaks down the society and the ways that you can divide and conquer society, and through that, from the divide and conquer, obviously, as you divide them, you conquer them. You legislate.
Okay, guys, 1 second. If you're not talking, please mute your mics. If you're not speaking, mute your mics. Mac is talking at the moment, but I just want to read what PK said. Iran will not win against USA or UK or Europeans. Why? Because the Western countries have the best warfare technology. Game over. But what if the war was a psychological war?
What about if China are going, and Russia? China and Russia decide to go in bed with Iran.
America's the best country in the world regarding to military warfare. Nobody will ever defeat America.
Do you not know
nobody will ever defeat America?
Not being a proud American, man.
Sorry. Do you not know?
Best country in the world.
All right, you don't know about the American war and the Russian war in Afghanistan when they were obviously giving weapons to the Taliban, and the Russians were obviously giving to the Afghans, and that initially even war with America and Russia started in those countries anyway. So right now, if Russia decide to side with Iran, then yeah, they can take on Europe and America if it comes down to it, because they got
ironically, Russia have now been accused of arming the Taliban in Afghanistan. Years later, the people that defeated the Taliban are arming them to defeat the Americans. Africa has no arms industry to compete with USA or European or Chinese arm industry.
Go do your research, American man. You've not got the best military in the world, brother. You definitely have not. Russia outweigh you with tanks.
Russia are a bunch of dogs that bark out their ass.
Listen, Russia would mess you up. Trust me, man.
What about China? What about all your products? All your products are made in China.
China are a bunch of cat and dog eating people that eat bats and give people corona.
See, China's a big look. Bill Fence is saying China's a big player, because think about it. Even though you look at your iPhone, look at the back. It says "Designed in California, made in China." Do you understand?
Chinese.
Everything Chinese. So they already have that technology that they even tried to do it with the Hawaii company, and they tried. And that's why the government stopped it.
China ain't got nothing. All they do is steal technology. They got nothing. Came up with their own ideas. Everything is
what have America done?
Fake.
What have America done? What have America done over the years? What about
America built the greatest constitution in the world and gave everybody freedom.
There's this American guy that's like spewing bullshit.
So would you rather live in America or live in Iran?
Do his research. Go look at your
would you rather live in America or live in Iran? Would you live under freedom or Sharia law?
I'd rather fucking live in Iran, man. I'd rather live in Iran any day.
America. Then why don't you go live there? You should go live there next day. Book your ticket after Corona.
Do you not know how? You know, there's a lot of There's a Jewish, like, as well as it's not just the Islamic State. We've got Zoroastrians. We've got Jews. We've got all type. We got like there are areas that you can go to. Baha'is,
Loyal John is coming in. Pause it there. Pause it, everyone. Mute your microphones, please, or you'll be out of here.
I'm about to mute it.
Loyal John has politely put his hand up.
Thank
Loyal
you.
John, what's your take on what's just been said?
So, as you know, I have Iranian blood, and I absolutely love American people. And most Americans, Iranians I know, everybody, actually almost every Iranian I know, absolutely loves American people and European people. And a few people know this, but when 9/11 happened, I think one of the only countries in the world that held candlelight vigils all night was the Iranian people. The Iranian people absolutely love the Americans, and they will say, you know, we want the Americans back. You know, we do like them. So this is nothing against the American people.
It's just the government. It's the government. It's the government.
And it saddens me that, and I know this is just on the spur of the moment, and people don't necessarily mean it, but you know, people are arguing about, you know, who's better, Iran, America, this sort of thing. When it comes to it, the majority of Iranians love the majority of Americans, and Americans have a lot of respect for Iranian people as well. And I know they do.
We love Iranian people.
Yeah, sorry? But can I just say
we love Iranian
but
people?
Just the government.
If I may, just one more point.
Let Loyal John finish his point, please. Mute your microphones and let Loyal John finish his point, please.
One more point and I'll give way. Mr. X mentioned something beautiful, and I completely agree that, you know, nowadays the world is very much changing. It used to be that, you know, country X would be against country Y, and now it's changing. It's now governments versus people. So the people of these two great nations, Iran and America, don't mind each other, like each other. If they knew more about each other, there'd be much more love. But it's the governments, as you're all saying, and I completely agree with you. So let's try and focus on unity rather than, you know, and start trying to see what it is that's causing disunity. But I'll give way now. Sorry, thank you.
Can I please respond to that?
Okay, Joe is in next. Joe is in next.
Can you speak Farsi? Can you speak Farsi, Loyal?
Yeah,
what was it? What was his name?
I can speak Farsi.
Loyal John.
Yes, I can.
Loyal John.
It wouldn't be very good on this.
Kuskash.
Khayli Mamnoon. Let's stick to English now for the benefit of the majority of our audience. But I'm going to let Joe back in, please. Top right.
Thank you, sir. You know, this is a very fascinating topic, and I'd like to say a few things on it quickly, but I'd like to first preface them by saying that I don't make these points as a means of completely rejecting what you say, because there's an element of soundness and truth and validity in, you know, I imagine the depiction that you made of most Iranians loving most Americans more true. I imagine it as more of a true depiction on the side of Iranians loving Americans than the other way around. I think most common Americans are significantly, I mean, it's one of the least well educated populations on planet Earth. And
still the best country.
Yeah, of course it is. And you know, they're one of the least tolerant lots on the planet as well. And factually, I don't think that the other way around is as
disagree with you. A black person would disagree with you and say America is racist for them.
Well, they would, but they'd also say, I mean, not all of them, but they'd also be a part of the. I mean, even more deprived than white people of education. I mean, if they have to place around on a map, where do they get their education from in this desert of deprivation of America?
America's done, man. America is done.
They're arguably more deprived.
Why did you say that? Why did you say that?
Donald Trump's going to keep America great again and build up the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, well, the Donald has defunded. The Donald has just defunded a lot of regime change programs, but there was a piece written about this that it's not the, you know, on the American bigoted side, a lot of them would say, oh, it's not it's not the Iranian people that I have a problem with, it's just the government. And they would say the same thing about China, that China's an authoritarian, totalitarian, you know, police state. And it's not the Chinese people that I have a problem with, it's just the Chinese government. But, you know, if you apply that same logic...
In China, most of the people support the communist government, so they're also the problem. So that's like 50% of people love the communist government.
Got a bright one here
as well.
See, this is why America needs the Hiroshima treatment, like a Nagasaki, Hiroshima kind of thing, across the whole bit. But he's making a great demonstration of why America needs to just big collective euthanasia relief. But the thing is, when you apply this logic to, like, let's say Iraq or Afghanistan, that's a rationale for supporting the war. It's not
when
the
they
people that I have a problem with.
They stole
It's the government.
Pause it there.
It's not the government.
They got
Pause it there.
Let's throw gays off of buildings and just,
Pause
you know, just
I'm going to bring up a point for you, Joe. You're 1 moment. I want to speak to Joe. You're suggesting that Americans might not be all that great. Now, America have a democracy, so presumably most people in America wanted Donald Trump to win, and he might well win again. So
he will win again?
Isn't the leadership in America more representative of the people than, say, the Islamic Republic of Iran, which doesn't have as much democracy, although they do have elections. Democracy. Well, no, they have elections. They have much more democracy in the Islamic Republic of Iran than they have in Saudi Arabia, for example, America's best friend, or in China. But is it not unfair to label all people in these dictatorships as being represented by their government, whereas Americans are more... Mute your mics, gentlemen, please. Mute your mics, please. Americans should be held more accountable if they are voting for their government. Please mute your mic. I don't know who's got a bad microphone. One of these is going to have to go. Okay, I'm going to let Loyal John back in.
When can I speak to you?
It's confirmed. I don't have the bad microphone.
It sounds like you, Julian.
What I?
Can't be me.
Could be. Definitely not me. It is not the source.
No, it's not
I
me.
muted it.
Hello. See?
Definitely not me.
Probably the guy in the pink filter. His bigoted speakers.
Okay, hold on. Turk, you're in the sin bin. And we're going to welcome back... Oh, no, that was a mistake, wasn't it? Because it's not him. PK's back in. Everyone mute your mic and listen to PK. Mute your mic for 30 seconds and listen to PK. PK, you're in. Unmute
Hello?
yourself. We're all listening to you. Go for it.
Can you hear me? Am I coming through okay?
Yes, but I'm going to give you a minute or so on your own because I'm going to mute myself and we're going to listen to you. It's the PK show.
Oh my God, there's a lot of tension going on here, isn't there? A lot of tension. This country, that country. I think we've all got. It's difficult because we all want to be proud and passionate about our countries. But my observation is this: the nastiness in the world that happens. I don't want to sound like a hippie because I'm not. There really is people playing a game, and it's a game of who can control the world's assets. The assets of the world in geopolitics will be the reserves that we need to run our infrastructures, such as oil, gas, these type of things. Also, the new type of products we need to keep our, the special metals that are found. Apparently, Afghanistan's got loads of these sort of metals which are used in the manufacturing of mobile phones, very rare earth metals as they're known. And companies such as Apple, Samsung and other peoples need these materials so they can manufacture their products. So they will lobby governments or politicians within governments, in other words, to try and get those materials by any which way means they can. And if they have to create a war by which they can take over a landmass to gain those rare earth materials to utilize in production for economics, this is game theory. This is what we've got to look beyond. It's just, they're them and they are them and we are us. There's other things going on because in business, within geopolitics, they don't give a fuck what race you are, what religion you are, what colour you are. They're only interested in making money. They're interested in making money.
It's called surveillance, capital surveillance. Is that capitalism surveillance?
I hope I didn't break up
there. No. We heard you loud and clear. You made a lot of sense. We appreciate it, DK. We'll let Mac come back in, and then it's going to be Mr. X at the bottom. So mute yourselves and listen to Mac on what.
Basically, I totally agree with what he said. I concur, and I think it's basically.
Oh, there's my dog.
Down boy or girl, lovely. Sorry, Mac. You were. Oh, wonderful. Man's best friend. Dogs are they're more loyal.
They're using.
That's his sister. She's down there.
You got the whole family there. We're a family show. Go on, Mac.
Big fan. We are. I'm not gonna put my face on because they're better looking than me.
No, I can't. Well, they say pets end up looking like their owners, so you've done something right.
Oh, he's a handsome chap.
I agree with him, and I think they use they call this thing called surveillance capitalism, where they use surveillance to see what you like or your dislikes, but they're invading your privacy, or in a sense to try and use that to sell things to you, or to try and see what you're.
In a sense, mate. Pardon me for interrupting.
No, of course. By all means.
But when you sign up to Facebook, you consent. We are consenting to this intrusion into our lives, into our. It's
definitely.
It's quite insidious.
You're pinpointing where you are.
Most people are probably not aware of it.
You're pinpointing where you are on Instagram or Facebook. You're pinpointing your people that you're surrounded with. So you're giving away where you go, who you're hanging with. So all that information could be just taken like in an instance, because they can watch your Instagram or Facebook, and everyone, they tend to want to take pictures every place they go. So you can find out all of these things.
It's deeper than that, man.
But you can turn that off.
Child's play stuff.
That's child's
play stuff you're talking about.
Of course you can, but most people don't. They have the intention of tagging themselves at being at certain restaurant or a certain club or a certain place with certain people, and it's like it's what they'd like to do. It's how they give the information.
Let's bring in Mr. X. Mr. X at the bottom middle.
I'm desperate to talk, man, because I'm listening to the conversation and I'm just like I want to just open people's eyes here. So like, I don't know the guy with the dog. I can't remember his name. Sorry, bad with names, but he was touching on Facebook. That's
PK. Go on, Mr. X.
So PK's talk. So it's surveillance state is what you're talking about. So never mind Facebook. If you look at the terms of Google itself, any smartphone you buy, you have to set up a Google account. So if you read the terms and conditions of Google, it states clearly in the conditions that Google can access your microphone or your camera at any time without your prior consent and record audio or video.
There you go. I got one.
Never mind
yeah,
your
but I
Facebook
think you might. Hang on a
location and
second.
stuff.
There you go. I got one.
I think it might well say that, but I think you'll find that when you say, for example, I'm on an Apple phone, okay, a little perhaps debatable whether or not it's safer or not than an Android phone, but the thing is, with the Apple phone, Google can't just take over because the iOS supersedes that with settings within it.
Now,
whether or not you're going to say, but Apple are lying, then don't forget, there's communities of hackers out there that check and try to hack the Android operating system and the iOS operating system. And bet your bottom dollar, if Google could just, someone sitting in an office in Google could just turn on our microphones and listen to us make love to our
well, listen.
You know, come on. That's not good.
Listen, I'll tell you how it works. It is happening, man. Listen, I'll tell you how it works, PK. Listen. So I don't know if you use social media or whatever, but please believe me, man. Friend. You're having a conversation in your house with whoever.
Little bit.
You go onto Facebook and then something pops up. You've been just talking about 2 minutes ago. You go, I was just talking about that. Please believe, man.
Yeah,
they know everything about you, man.
Yeah.
The microphone turned on, and what you've done is you've allowed access for that microphone.
But you've no choice. You've no choice.
There's hacker. You can get a. No, you don't, my friend. I can tell you do have a choice because it's called hacking, and you can hack the iPhone. Right, it's called jailbreaking on the iPhone.
Yeah,
there might be another term for it. Yeah, so when you jailbreak it, you can bypass any of those functions that would automatically do what we've just discussed. So you are correct for the majority of people, no doubt about it, my friend. But jailbreakers, hackers can supersede the commands written into the code, hence the term jailbreaking.
And PK, on that note, I've heard that perhaps even more scarily, it may not be the microphone listening to you, but it may be the algorithm reading your behavior and accurately predicting what you will be talking about, rather than having listened in.
Would you like to say something there, my friend?
Has anybody heard of the application called Randonautica?
What was that again?
Randonautica.
No, I haven't heard of that.
I can't say I have.
So the application, right, and there was a body found in America not that long ago in a suitcase on the beach. Two young people found it. So there was this application. You can download it. It's on the Play Store. It's called Randonautica, and it's supposed to you set it up, and you think of an intent, and it takes you to locations. And I said, this is through your phone, and you're not speaking. You're just thinking. These people are thinking. It's on YouTube.
Well, no, I don't think the phone can interact with a human brain.
Well, brother, listen, go on YouTube.
There's no way the phone. You're saying
it's done it. These people get took to a location. They thought it's sinister. The phone took them. It's on the
news. Don't forget.
Google have a feature where
don't forget on YouTube.
No, this was on the news. They found a suitcase on the beach, man. They found a suitcase with body parts on the beach, and there's an application that took them to this location.
Okay, pause it there, pause it there. We're going to listen to Loyal John. Loyal John, can the phone access the human brain? Just wondering if you happen to know.
No, I don't believe it can. However, I mean, scientifically, I don't see how that's possible. Maybe there's science that I'm not aware of. But I hear.
The phone. Hang on.
I've had experiences that suggest that
the phone.
Go on, PK. Go on, PK.
No, it depends how you rationalise these things. The phone does interact with the human brain when you interact with it consciously, because your brain moves your finger onto the little thing to type something in. So yes, it does in that context.
100%.
But does the phone tune into our brain? No, it does. No, it doesn't.
So how did these people that took to this location and they found their body when they thought and their intent was sinister? Come
on.
So it's not the news. It's not.
So if it's radiating a frequency, you think you can't? Your brain.
Hang on, my friend.
Electric.
Pause it there. Wait, Matt. We're going to let PK finish his point on this, and then we'll tear it apart if we need to.
Hang on. Okay, guys. Right, you've heard of the Blair Witch Project. Okay,
yeah, now we're
talking. Film, but before the film was released, people released, the company that made the film released footage online to stimulate an idea. Okay, so do you not think that in this world, that when if you want a conspiracy theory to succeed, okay, you have to clandestinely put it into the subconscious of the minds of people. But you want to do it so it grows like a virus, so it spreads slowly at first and then exponentially. And then what you do is you create an idea, and the idea itself becomes a reality. My mobile phone cannot read my bloody mind. Your mobile phone.
Oh, it just went off there. I heard it.
Okay.
That's exactly. Go see what your phone says.
Hang on one second.
Go look at your phone and see what it says.
Can I just say?
Hang on a second. If I put my phone in, hang on, I'll end it in 1 second. But just to prove my point, if I leave my phone in the car and I come inside and the phone is now 5 meters away. The phone is in the garage. I'm sat 5 meters away. Okay, the phone is not gonna bloody read my mind, mate. It's not gonna hear what I say.
Because you're not near the phone.
So anything you say, and you, my God,
we're not talking about reading your mind or your conscience.
If my phone, you're saying.
Go on to Google right now, brother.
What you're going to
PK, please listen to me for 2 seconds, PK, please. Go on to Google and type in body found on beach, Randautica, and you see it.
It's in a book. Can I bring in?
But it doesn't mean
Loyal
John. It doesn't mean.
It doesn't mean. I just wanted to.
Loyal John.
Okay.
I just want to say. Here we are.
Finish. I'll go in 1 second.
Oh, sorry. Go on, Loyal John.
We must take it.
Sorry,
with a pinch of salt, guys.
Yes, we must.
Okay.
I
agree.
We've got to taste things with a pinch of salt and use our rational minds.
Okay.
But there's so much going on out there, man.
Okay.
If you're really scared, I'll go in 1 second. I'll go in 20 seconds. I'll go. And I'll just leave you all on this, guys. If you really fear the technology that is in your hand and in your pocket, and you fear it, your computer and everything, don't bloody use it. Throw it in the bin, turn it off, take control of your own life and your own destiny. And do not.
I don't fear it. I think it's funny. I know what they're doing, and I like playing the.
Well said. Well done, PK.
You have the power. You have the power. End of.
Okay. Thank you so much, PK.
Very much for the conversation, gentlemen.
Well done.
You have all been brilliant.
I'll make it brief.
Thank you, PK.
Loyal John, react to PK.
I'll make it brief because I know that. Sorry, I don't know the guy in the middle at the top of your name. Sorry.
Me, Mac.
Yeah, hi, Matt.
Yeah.
So I'll just make it brief. Of course, I agree with you, PK, completely. Very good point, well made. Completely, I agree with you. But actually, this is what I find interesting. Here we are, we're all of a like mind, and we all agree that there are forces, whatever they may be, that are trying to divide and conquer and all of this. We all agree with this. And yet here we are doing the exact thing that these forces want us to do, which is with respect, a ludicrous conversation as to whether or not phones can use our brains. So who do you think, rather than talking about, what are these forces above the government? Is it the oil industry? Is it the arms industry? Rather than talking about that, we're wasting, quite frankly, our time talking about whether or not phones can listen to our brain, can listen to our brains. This is genius stuff by the forces that may be, and we can continue talking about this if we want to, or we can talk about what the real problem is.
Yeah.
But it's AI. It's a technology of AI.
Now
Google is saying
that you're right. Yeah.
Google are saying that right now they have a system or a feature where you can actually tell your Google Assistant to make an appointment, like a hair appointment, and it will ring up the place and it will sound like a human and it will book the appointment for you. Honestly, sometimes nowadays, I think they're legislating
that's just technology.
Yeah, I know, but they can't. You're right in the sense that it can't read your mind. But what you got to worry about is the radiation that it's giving out. Your frequencies. Yeah. Think about it. Your brains. You got electric signals going from one receptor to the other in your brain, so it's electrically active. So when you're using a phone, something electrical, it's obviously the frequencies can adjust and make a chemical imbalance in your brain, hence depression or sleep, whatever it is.
Gentlemen, we've hit the 1 hour mark. I want to thank all of you for joining me and contributing. Great to get PK back on this channel. I haven't heard from him for a while. I'm going to close by saying that your phone cannot read your mind, but several studies have shown that your dog can. And dogs will often be at the window when their owner is coming home. So just mind the dog, PK. He's reading your mind. The phone isn't, but the dog might be.
He knows me.
Good man. Gentlemen,
nice to meet you.
Glad we did it. We'll do it all again next Friday night, 10 o'clock.
Nice to see everyone.
Great to see Mr. X, Mac, PK, Loyal John, the Turk earlier.
Gentlemen. Good
We'll
night.
do it all again soon. We were here and we're gone. Later.
Good night.
Well done.